Hi, my name is Claudia Gross. I am going to be on the Online Prosperity Show, and we are going to talk about the power of language, the role Egypt has played, and in me coming up with the speakGreen initiative, and why I believe it's about strengthening humanity at work all around the world. Come and join us.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Tarovinga, and today we have the pleasure of diving into the inspiring journey of a true trailblazer. Now, Dr. Claudia, how are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for the warm welcome and the opportunity to speak with you.
All good, all good. I wanted to say the little bit of German that I know, but I just thought maybe I might just mince my words. All right. For those that are meeting Dr. Claudia for the very first time, I don't know what rock you have been living under because she is world famous, right? She hails from Germany, but now she's calling Egypt her home for over 19 years. So she came from the fastest cars on the Autobahn to slow camels climbing up the pyramids. I don't know what is the lure to that. We're going to hear all about that story there. And Claudia is not just a consultant and a trainer, but a soulful business humanist. And that in and of itself explains why she's wearing green today. And we're going to be talking all about that. And she's the founder of human-centered organizational governance, the driving force behind speakGreen. Now, they're promoting transformative power of words and language, and I think Claudia says it best. So before I start putting words in front of me that might just stop her from talking, she will give us what the perfect way to say certain things are. Now, Claudia, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Tell us a little bit about yourself and especially why you left Germany.
Thank you very much for the invitation. And yeah, thank you also for this beautiful question. Why did I leave Germany? Destiny. That's my short answer, because there always has been the intention to live and work outside of Germany. But when I once then got the opportunity, it was really destiny, because it brought me to Egypt, a place that even a year before I came here, when someone asked me if I would join her for a Nile cruise, I harshly refused. And I said, I will not travel to neither Morocco nor Egypt. And yeah, well, God was listening to this carefully. He was like, well, what did you just say? Not Egypt? Okay, let me teach you a lesson. So he picked me from Frankfurt, Germany, brought me to Cairo. And this is now exactly 19 years ago to the day. Yes, on 8th of January I came. So yeah, here we are.
Wow, fantastic. And I quite like that destiny has a way of showing us where to go. But you just didn't land in Egypt. You've been around 55 countries, but not the United States.
Yes, that's a surprise for everyone. You know, two surprises. One of them that I've never been in Munich, Germany, only for transits, which is uncommon because many foreigners have been in Germany in Munich, and I wasn't yet. Still to come. And yes, I haven't been in the United States, and I traveled to 55 different countries around the world, like maybe 12 countries on the African continent, a lot of Southeast Asia. And yeah, and I cannot explain why it wasn't the United States yet. There were a couple of opportunities, but at the end of the day, they never, well, came to fruition. So it's still also something that I'm looking forward to in the future. Inshallah, we would say in Arabic.
Absolutely. So now you speak Arabic as well.
Yes. I speak Arabic with the Egyptian colloquial accent. So it's, you see, in Arabic, there's three different forms. There's high standard Arabic, there's the Arabic of the Quran, and there are local accents. And the Egyptian accent is the one that is best known and understood in the whole region, because Egypt used to have a film industry that was so influential that everyone understands the Egyptian accent, while we find it sometimes difficult to tune into the Tunisian accent or the Lebanese or so. Yeah, so this is the language I speak. And if you want to compare it to other languages, like since you speak German, like high standard Arabic would be like high standard German in Switzerland, while Swiss German would be like the Egyptian accent that I speak. So there's a huge difference. And on the other hand, yeah, it's the same language. And we understand each other and people love it. When I come to Jordan, people look at me and like, huh? Where are you from? Are you Egyptian? But you don't look Egyptian. You are German. Why do you speak Egyptian? So it's always like a good entry door to start speaking with people. Even when I was in Afghanistan, it was helpful. They don't speak Arabic. They speak many other languages like Farsi or Dari, but they know, of course, the like Arabic out of the Quran. So it was interesting that we could like meet on this kind of level with all these positive words or like wishing each other good luck or blessing each other works in that language. So it was really fascinating. And they were like looking at me like, are you a German consultant? Seriously?
Oh, I can only imagine. Ich habe am Kurzzeit im Deutsch gelebt und ich habe ein bisschen Deutsch gelernt. Right.
Yeah.
For those that are uninitiated, I just tried to say I've lived in Germany and I have learned a little bit of German. And it's not the easiest language to learn. Now, we're speaking in English, and you just gave me a whole history in Arabic. If you could tell me you've been living in Egypt for these 2 decades, now, does this unique blend of cultures influence your perspective on business and in life or the work that you're doing right now?
Oh, yeah, certainly. Certainly. I mean, first of all, imagine when I'm giving trainings or workshops in Germany, people very often they start disputing with me, like, no, I heard this differently, I've seen this differently, da 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 da. Here, when I gave workshops or trainings, people were like, wow, that's interesting, that's fantastic, we want to hear more about that. And then it could happen that 5 years later in the street, I met someone by chance, or they met me, they were like, aren't you Dr. Claudia? I learned something from you that was really useful. I taught my children about it and they are now using it as well. So a different form of how valuable or my work or my contribution is perceived as here in these countries, first of all. And then, I mean, they said this before I came, that over here small talk is big talk. And you think like, okay, that's a beautiful slogan. But at the end of the day, it really is this way. It's about relationship building. You do not need to teach people here in networking or how to have collaboration, communication. People, I mean, they grow up in big families. They have like their phone books are full of contacts, and if something happens on one end of the city, it's going to reach the other end in a split second. So, and relationships matter. I've seen this now, like, I mean, here since 19 years, so you can imagine that even people that I started getting to know 19 years ago, I now also witnessed how they got children, how these children grew up, what kind of teenage problems they went through, and how they now get engaged or married. And this matters. I am invited to this, although you could say like, well, she's a service provider, she's a consultant and coach. And I'm not. At the end of the day, I'm part of their story. I'm here also long enough, and not just in Egypt. I was like working in Jordan, for example, which is just around the corner. If you think about my map or the worldview that I have, I've been there over 120 times, I guess, or maybe more. I asked them the immigration officers, but they weren't allowed to tell me how often they have me in their files. But yeah, so we become part of the family. We have relationships that really matter. We went through revolutions, and that's not just like a term, real revolutions. We went through putches, we went through whatever important human developments, and this is of course like also supporting us in being closer and closer to each other. So this is important when I think about business, because it's not B2B or B2C, it's actually H to H. It is human to human. Our heart to heart. And this matters. And this is also why I call myself a business humanist, because I believe it's really important to bring humanity to work 100%. And the idea is not to humanize it a little bit as if you would spray a little bit of like humanity over the thing. No, it's about us. We are still, thank God, 100% human. And I really want to see us communicating, collaborating, finding ways to resolve or even transcend our conflicts and be and meet each other like really, yeah, from heart to heart with this kind of warmth.
I like that. It's very resonant to even my part of Africa where I'm from, where we experience what's called Ubuntu. I don't know if you've ever come across that, where I am because you are. And right now, for those that are watching, Ubuntu is a concept where we value the person that is in front of you, not just the person, but who they represent. So each person represents a culture, stories. It represents a whole new world that if you just stop to listen, you might actually learn a thing or two. And I think that's what Dr. Claudia has experienced there. But now that you're very taken into this sort of culture and way of life, if Egypt and Germany are playing in the World Cup, which one is your favorite team?
I always answer as my father used to answer, may the better team win.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously you will be torn in between, but I would think there has been a lot of cultural learnings that you have come across, but that wasn't easy when you rocked up in Egypt. You would have
No,
had
not
so much of a culture shock.
yes, not at all. I mean, like, yeah, I had not a shock, but it's like, you know, it's these little, it's not a big shock where you're like, oh my goodness. It's more about these little things. And I'm describing it like transparent glass walls that you do not see. They are so transparent, like in these mazes they used to have, you know. You only feel it when you just run into one where like, huh, I'm not supposed to say that. I'm not supposed to wear that. I'm not supposed to behave like this. Then, you know, it's like these a little bit like an electric wire or something, yeah, where I'm like, I didn't know that. And even with the intercultural training that I got before I came, and still it's about like little things and also sometimes big things. It's about with whom am I going to shake hands? And also learning that it's me who decides who I'm like offering my hand to. So me as a woman, I have space around myself and I decide who I'm going to allow into that or not, because I can also decide to just keep my hands down and to nod at someone and they know that they have to respect my space. And so this is something, or when you think about what we are saying, how we are speaking with each other. Like over here, for example, when you say good morning, you would wish someone a morning full of light or full of jasmine or full of honey. And it sounds like a poem. And then you would answer, and you would answer with something that is even more filled with light and even sweeter. And this kind of reciprocity is something that I also had to learn. And that's also then leading to people being like super helpful in some regards, but on the other hand, maybe also not willing to confess when they did a mistake, because saying sorry sometimes it's really difficult. It's like throwing so much blame on someone that there's a lot of effort spent in trying to like make sure it's someone else's fault but not mine. So it's in the little things. And one of the biggest things that I learned here is about trust, because I come from a culture where, or maybe I'm just raised like this by my family, that I trust, you know, like we met for the first time right now, and I give you like whatever, 20 trust points to play with, and you can then build and multiply, and our trust is going to deepen and to increase, except if you're like really totally screwing it up. In Egypt, I realized that people started trusting me after I've been there 2 or 3 years. So I started not at plus 20. I didn't start at 0. I started at minus 20. I had to prove myself. And it was nothing that I could feel at the beginning, because my assumption was we are trusting each other, don't we? I mean, we don't have any negative experiences with each other. So why would there be distrust? But then after a while, I've realized, and people were saying this like after 2 and 3 years, like, and now I trust you, and now I know that you're not going to leave again, and now I know that you are whatever, that you are not even taking sides, like these kind of things.
That would have been obviously difficult because you're showing up, and thank you so much for giving us your time. Because from what you're talking about, it's a redemptive amount of giving that you have to do off of your time, your space, your culture, your mental capacity just to function in places like that. And for a lot of people that are coming from the West, that would have been a very difficult thing. Like you said, these are unseen mirrors, and it's things that you don't recognize until you've actually come straight into it. And it's a good thing we've got pioneers and trailblazers like yourself that are out there in the trenches. Even though you get treated by climbing the pyramids once in a while, or you've got a couple of camels in your backyard there. I don't know how it works, but it's such a big insight because so many people don't get to experience that, let alone be amongst that. And to feel that you have to show up again and again for 2 years up until people open up their doors and their hearts to you, that is something else. Sounds like studying a business online.
Yeah, and it's something that I did not expect at all, because I mean, my default is to start with trust, and learning all of this and observing it. It also made me then more sensitive when I'm sitting in the plane and I had businessmen sitting in the row behind me speaking about who they are going to meet and doing business and whatever, strawberry exports to the European Union, whatever. And I thought, like, and then they were like speaking and they were saying something like, yeah, no, it's my first time in Egypt. And I thought, like, good luck. Yeah, because I mean, who's telling you these things? They are flying in for 3 days, business meetings. Here we go. Time is money. Didn't manage to squeeze in more time. No, I won't be able to see the pyramids at all because I have another meeting in wherever. And where I'm like, well, I wish them luck. And I wish that they really manage to reflect on their experiences and have the chance to build these relationships. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how great you are and how great I am or anyone else. What matters is how we are cultivating a beautiful space between us. And this looks like nothing, there's like only air between us, but at the end of the day, this is what really matters. It's about this invisible spaghetti that are connecting us around the world, and they matter. And very often they are like overlooked or taking as, it's a waste of time. Why should we have lunch together? Hey, we can like do business in that time. Well, I see that, yeah, these hard connections really matter, and we're staying together for a longer time, not just for 3 days of a meeting. We are building long-term relationships, so it's about cultivating them in a way how we would do it in a village or in a family or in a friendship.
Fantastic. I quite like it because this in and of itself, from what you're doing, from what you've seen, from what you've experienced, and my understanding, you're literally a trailblazer in this whole space. Tell us a little bit about the birth of speakGreen, and first of all, what really inspired you to create such a big undertaking, because you are out here. It's not only the three men that were sitting behind you in the plane. You want to change the way the world speaks.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's my mission. Because I believe that when we are changing the way we speak and choose our language carefully, not just use it, choose it. By this, we can transform the world, we can transform our organizations, our businesses, our communities, our families, our lives. And yeah, speakGreen. It's actually, I mean, you were speaking about camels and traffic jam. So this is where it started. I've been sitting here in Cairo, and we have a lot of traffic jams, but this was a particularly stuck one where I thought, like, okay, I cannot leave my car behind. I could walk, but I mean, what to do? You know, like I cannot park my car in the middle of a traffic jam. And in this traffic jam, all the messages that reached me were like, don't be late, don't worry, don't turn here, don't do this, don't do that. And it was a lot of no language where I thought, like, wait a moment, not helpful. You know, now I know perfectly what not to do, and I have no idea what actually my options are. So I was like hoping for messages like, I'm gonna wait for you, take your time, next exit over there, something like this. And therefore, once after then finally I arrived to have dinner with a friend of mine, I was telling her about this experience, and I was fuming. I was like really like steam coming out of my nose and my ears. And I was like, okay, we have to change something in the language. I have enough of this red language. She was like, okay, what do you propose? And I'm like, green language. I want us all to speak green. And then I scribbled down a list of these word couples and realized very soon that this is like this magic dough in fairy tales that is just growing out of the pot and then filling the kitchen and then suddenly going through out of the window down the village hill. It's like, oh my goodness, you know, this is bigger than I am. And that was the moment when I decided that I need a website, that I wanted to post daily red words and green alternatives. And out of this grew everything else, like whiteboard animations, articles, the TED Talk, the book that I've written. So it's all like part of this kind of magic speakGreen dough that was cooked on that very day. It's like sourdough, actually. You half it and you create new things out of this.
Absolutely. Did you at least have aircon while you were sitting in that car? Because I can only imagine the Cairo heat and you're stuck in traffic and everybody's just telling you, hey, be quickly, you know, whatever it is that they were saying.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, like, what would we be without aircon? And we have automatic cars here because you cannot all the time in traffic jam. I mean, if you have to change gears all the time, you would have like real lot of muscles on this arm and none here.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I've been to Bali and also in Harare in Zimbabwe. I can attest to what the traffic will be like there and things of that nature. Now, I was watching one of your TED Talks, and good on you for putting yourself out there with something that is completely big, like you say, out of this world, because looking at the cultures that you've come from, all right, I was actually just trying to piece this together. In German, when they're speaking and saying I do not know, it sounds like they're saying I know not. And isn't it, it's weiß es nicht, right? And I do not know. And when you were speaking on your TED Talk, you were saying the language that the world uses, right? You go into an elevator, and then they say, do not use this in case of an emergency. I mean, in case there's a fire. So what is the alternative to that? How am I to know what to do? I've gotten into the elevator, it's shut its doors. Then what's next? What's the next instruction? Do you think the world is not functioning the way it should had they been speaking green?
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, certainly the elevator is one example, and another example everyone can relate to, and it is a little bit mundane. I mean, that's really the situation that when you enter bathrooms, maybe it's about ladies' bathrooms, but very often they are just like reminding you not to throw any papers into the toilet. Fantastic. So I know what to do, what not to do, but I still don't know what to do, you know, and they're saying this in different languages with different visuals. You know, my phone is full of rainbow pictures, which is another story, and full of like signs that I have like like photos of pictures of these signs in bathrooms, because I'm amazed, about this not language telling me what not to do. Like why would you do this? And the prime example, here we come. The prime example for this is actually no war. No, I believe, to answer your question, I really believe that this world would be a different place when we realize and also like show gratitude for all the examples or research that was done in neurosciences that is saying that our brain doesn't understand no. So when we are negating things, when we are saying no, not, don't, anti, whatever, this or un, it's not helpful. Our brain first has to evoke the picture, no war. So it's like war. And then it's like, oh, she said no war. And then you're trying to take it back. The opposite would be to immediately focus on what we really want to have, peace. So I am totally 1,000,000% convinced that this world would be a different place if we had focused on peace right from the start, because then you also don't need a ministry of defense. You would need a peace ministry.
I hear you. And that, like I was saying, opens a lot of loopholes, because if you really look at everything around us, there's even signs on the road that says, don't walk, stop.
Yeah.
And things of that nature. I'm actually starting to see how it works. Do you maybe think that could be by design, in as much as maybe the human brain, since it's enclosed, because the human brain is just gray matter that is enclosed in a cranium which sees no light of day, and the information and inputs that we put through our eyes, nose, and mouth is how the brain starts to make sense of the world around us. And if you would see, if I flip the screen right now, you would be looking as if you're looking that way, but you're looking this way. Do you think that maybe by the time the words enter your brain and everything else, they would have at least straightened up? Because
I mean, for this, you would need a kind of automatic no deleter at the entrance of your brain, at your brain portal, like, oh, they said no, they don't mean this, they don't mean this. What I do is when I'm working, I'm very often asking my clients, or also the teams I'm working with, like, okay, wait a moment, what did you just say? What do you really want to have? Because very often they're like, we do not want this and we don't want that. We want to avoid this. And this is also something that we are worrying about. Where I'm like, okay, fantastic. Now you know everything that you do not want. And what does that mean? Because very often it's also not like the exact opposite. It's not like a negative of a positive photo. You remember when we were developing pictures before digital cameras, like it would have been the exact opposite of it. But what we actually want to go for is beyond the opposite of, if it's possible, to really transcend it. So it's not just flipping a negative to the positive, but we can also use the opportunity to think about what do we really want. For example, like in British Airways, they were facing the difficulty of having a lot of lost luggage. This is many years ago, and that's an example that comes from colleagues of mine from the appreciative inquiry community. So they were asked to consult them, and in a workshop, this topic came up: too much lost luggage. And this would be the negative example. So what do you want? We want to make sure that people have their luggage. This would be like the exact opposite, like the positive, yeah? But then when they thought about it a little bit more, they were like, what we really want? We want to provide an excellent arrival experience. Boom. Yeah. Like, I mean, that people have their luggage is like the least we could take care of, but I mean, like, to make sure that from the beginning when they land until they are leaving the airport, they have an excellent arrival experience. This is something to strive for. And this includes that they have their luggage when they leave the airport.
could what you are working on have roots with starting with why? Because if you start with why you actually need everything else, The how will come, the way will come. Every other things that we look at is just maybe a symptom. What we want is peace. What we want is communication. What we want is people literally knowing what the next step is, which enables us to grow, flourish, live long and prosper, everything else that comes along with my brand.
Yes, I'm totally with you. And I would also take this a little bit further because of course, I mean, like we are all super grateful for Simon Sinek and the golden egg and everything there. And for many people, like focusing on the why is really already an eye opener, like, and maybe it's a heart opener and a soul opener and everything. Like, where I'm like, wow, what are we actually doing this for? And the issue that I have with why is that when I think about daily communication, when you ask someone why, like Prosper, why did you do that? You know, you would actually immediately feel offended. You might feel the urge of whatever, justifying yourself, stating your reasons, but you might also feel attacked by the question. And we grow up like this, you know, like when you think about us playing on the playground, why did you, whatever, throw the ball into the neighbor's garden, la, 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 la. So the why question often leads to unnecessary justifications, feeling attacked, and the urge of to defend ourselves. And therefore, I would go beyond the why and offer as an alternative that we focus on what for. Yeah? So the answer is the same. It's for peace. It's for relationships. It's for mutual respect. It's for Ubuntu. It's for everything. It's just avoiding these negative feelings that many of us feel in ourselves when someone asks us why. So the alternative, the speakGreen alternative here is what for.
Absolutely. I think we're now really getting to the bottom of this. And before the light turns red, let's go in and figure out what else is actually happening under the hood. So this all sounds like affirming, right? So if I want my little girls to clean their rooms in, you know, every day and, you know, tidy up their beds and tidy up their rooms and not leave clothes on the floor, I wouldn't go in there and say, hey, why do you leave your clothes on there? What is this? Why is this happening? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Because I can automatically see I'm being that saber tooth to them right now, really creating that fear, and also them associating that experience and that activity with daddy hates this, therefore daddy hates me. But if we go in and say, I really like it when you clean your room. We do this so that if your friends come over, you don't get embarrassed. So this is something that I think you have tried to put across, and you know, helping people get an understanding of this. Why haven't they started throwing stones at you yet?
At me? Why should they? But you see with your girls, you know, it's not only that they don't get embarrassed, it's actually that they can enjoy their rooms, that they enjoy the beauty of their toys or of their decoration or whatever. I don't know how old they are, maybe also posters on the wall and everything they did so that their rooms look like beautiful places, like yeah, like their nests that they are staying in. And therefore, it's really about focusing. What do we want? We want to enjoy our family place, and we love the same in our living room and everywhere else. And because the question, why didn't you clean your room? I mean, what kind of that's not an intellectual debate, right? Why didn't I clean it? Well, I don't know why I didn't clean it, you know? I mean, like, maybe it's my personality to be messy, maybe I didn't have the time, but that's not your question, you know? You start with why, you are starting reproach language, and that's what you do not want. You do not want to speak in reproach language, and you're daughters very likely are too young to understand that in each and every reproach, there's actually a wish. Yeah. But putting on your whatever green ears and listening into the wish that is hidden in your reproach, that's asking a bit too much from children. We could ask this from adults, maybe, but still, this is like higher communication. So therefore, yeah, it's really about, at the end, it's not so difficult. The idea is say what you want, do not state what you do not want. Say what you want. It's the same like if we are here in Egypt, we have the McDonald's used to deliver, or others. Okay, let me start this thing again. Like here in Egypt, pharmacies, supermarkets, everyone else delivers. So you wouldn't call them and tell them, listen, I don't want this and I don't want that and I don't want this. You wouldn't do that. If you want something, you need to state what you want. And for this, it's not helpful to have also for whatever, for your New Year resolution, saying what you wish to avoid, like stop gossiping, stop wasting, whatever. No, I mean, we want to focus on what we really want to do, spread positivity, mind the resources that are given to you, whatever. And it's actually really beautiful to start flipping our red language to green language and to take this even as a game. Like, okay, how could we increase the energy of our statements? How can we up level it? How can we have higher vibration in what we are saying?
Quite like that, because this translates into business and marketing all at the same time. Maybe let's start off with business, because you are already a business humanist. A lot of us, have badges of honor, really, really burning out, calling it B2B, but you have labeled it H to H. How do you then approach sort of organizational development, especially HR management, or maybe teams or project design, when it comes to things like this, and so that they are all working in harmony to create, a unified goal using your strategies?
Yeah. For me, what matters is that often organizations are seen by consultants as problems to be solved. And for me, it's like more a playground to support and thriving. Maybe sometimes we need to heal some areas of that, but it's not about re-engineering and bringing all the cogs or like the human resources to line them up according to a blueprint, that everyone is firing on all cylinders and having a pipeline of candidates. I am not looking at organizations like machines. I'm looking at organizations like living systems or even organism. And therefore, when I think, for example, about organizational charts, very often they look like pyramids. I have pyramids down the road, and I love them. But these are actually the only pyramids that I really like. I like natural hierarchies that are happening in nature around us. They are natural, they are organic. The hierarchies we tend to have in organizations, they are artificial. And we are often also like making fun of organizational charts, because you have something that looks very polished and beautiful, and then you have a kind of invisible organizational chart where like who's speaking with whom, who doesn't like who is the brother of who is having whatever with whom. So that's one thing. And for me, organizational charts, they do not look like pyramids. They don't look like top down and bottom up. They are not the opposite, by the way. The bottom up is not the opposite of top down. They are exactly the same aspects of the same principle, which is this kind of steep hierarchy. What I'm looking at is circles. It's about circles and spirals. And like now you can't see the circle, so therefore I flip it for you so you can see the circle. But in a circle, you don't have up or down. What you have in circles, think about ripple effects. You have inner circles and you have outer circles. And the outer circles are in contact with your clients, governmental entities, your lawyers, I don't know, whoever, service providers, producers, everyone. And therefore, the more you're reaching the periphery of your organization, the more authority people need to have to make their own decisions. It cannot be like in the pyramid, everything has to be communicated up there and then down again. It's taking too much time. We are living in 2024, here we are. We need to be faster. This is also why the agile movement was like so popular, while there are many consultants still are trying to do agile with a very mechanistic, autocratic mindset. So it's about procedures and structures and 3 questions. While I actually would see it more like, okay, how can we enable teams to organize themselves? So it's about increasing their liberty, their freedom in the way they work, and in the way they are producing, and in the way they are dealing with the clients, for the clients, together with clients coming up with new ideas. So there's a lot more communication happening inside. In the circle, it would be outside, inside out, and outside in. So you have a totally different flow. And for this, we need different ways of communicating with each other. So instead of having in your onboarding session for new colleagues, and you see, I'm not saying employees, because I believe they are not only defined by having signed an employment contract. They are colleagues, they are teammates, they are whatever other word is like expressing your way of seeing your teammates in a conscious way. So onboarding new colleagues, it's not about only sharing with them the vision and the mission and the whatever normal slide deck that you always show. It's supporting them in knowing, how do we communicate here? How do we collaborate? What are the tools we use for project management? How are we facilitating meetings? Who facilitates meetings? It's not the leaders, it's the team members. So how do we facilitate them? How do we provide feedback to each other? We don't do this annually anymore. It's a waste of time and money. We do this like in retrospectives every second week, or after the phase of an important accomplishment. So whenever it makes sense, and not a year later when I have forgotten and I don't find my notes and I don't recall what we actually did. So a lot of different ways. And we are also, and that's also another revolution, we are not deciding based on consensus. So we are not searching for everyone agreeing or the majority agreeing, because we know that the majority principle actually is not democratic. That's a discussion for itself. But what is helpful are methods that are supporting us in deciding based on consent. And they are flipping the whole thing upside down. They are not looking at who agrees. They're looking at how small is your disagreement. Yeah. So if you think that agreement would be, I have no objection, this is full agreement, or I have 10 points objection. But the smaller the objection, the bigger the agreement and the bigger the consent. So they are flipping the thing. And by this, they manage to get started, because it's about not the best solution, the well-researched, best researched solution. It's about good enough for now, safe enough to try, and then having pilots, prototypes, and feedback circles, and learning forward, not failing forward. I don't like failing forward. I like learning forward, moving forward. And so these are just, I mean, like, you see, I could like, that's one of the things. You could wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I would like talk for hours. So I'm sorry for this longer input right now, but that's how I see it. It would just work in a totally different way, human to human.
I can so see that, but what I don't want to see in the future is you getting into politics, Claudia, because you are saying people only need to consent, enough. So let's say you're put in charge of the votes and people start voting, and if people are just voting 80%, you might just put in somebody who the majority hasn't properly voted for. But I really understand what it is that you're talking about. But you have a way, you've been tracking all of this, and whatever has been being put across, the words, the phrases, the way that you're doing that on your website, speakGreen. Now, can you maybe elaborate on what it is that you're doing with those daily posts? Because I try to follow a few. I think some say citizens are customers, don't bring me flowers, bring me rights, collective humanity, national borders and things of that nature. Where are we going with this, and how can other people sort of engage with this initiative to embrace more affirmative language in their day-to-day, so they get a way of understanding what your ideas are?
Sure. The idea behind these daily posts is that I was inspired by sketch notes. They are sharing sketch notes on a daily basis with like small concepts, and actually it's like creating a mountain out of a molehill. I think this is how you say it in English. And that's the idea. It's a steady drop. And when you are seeing these daily posts, 365 a year, I'm doing this now since 10 years. You can imagine there's a lot of input, and some of them talk to people more and others less, and some of them are like a little bit more whatever advanced, and others are like really totally intuitive. The idea behind it is to expand our mind, to expand our world, because I know a lot of people, they live in a red world. They're living in a language of scarcity, a fixed mindset. And when I offer them, or anyone else offers them, green alternatives, they're like, huh? You could say it like this? Really? It doesn't need to be human resources. It could be human relationships. It doesn't need to be whatever target client. It could be ideal customer, or it doesn't need to be deadline. It could be application date, registration date, delivery time, whatsoever. Something shifts. And once they are shifting their thinking and the language they first choose and then they use, by this they are shifting everything, the language on their websites, the way they are writing emails, the way they are communicating in meetings and workshops and conferences and everywhere. And suddenly, by this, they are moving the world forward and upward, because there are some words we are like using because traditionally this is the way we used to say that. And this doesn't mean that it's the way we are going to say this in the future. Because, for example, like speaking about people as refugees. In Germany, they have changed the term of refugees because the one we used, it sounded too pejorative, and they are now using a different one. So they changed from Flüchtling, which is refugee, someone who escaped somewhere. But it sounds, they changed it to Geflüchteter, which really highlights it's someone who had to leave a place, someone who had to escape. It's a different idea. When you think about people not speaking about slaves anymore, they're speaking about enslaved people. Yeah, game changer. And so therefore you can in business also change a lot of ways, a lot of words that are not serving us, that are not in harmony with our consciousness, and take them to another level. And if you have an NGO, or you're having a startup, or you are a huge multinational, and you're still using old language while you're trying to be innovative, and are now opting for whatever green economy and regeneration, everything, I invite you to look at the language and then to choose words that are more life affirming and that are more in line with your consciousness and with the future that we are like aiming for. Yeah, or not only aiming for, that we are actually currently cultivating together.
I like that, because while you're talking, I was just thinking there's certain words in my industry, that really shoot us in the foot before we've even started. Looking at a target market, it's like you've got a target on somebody that you want to reach out to. And the worst one, which just came to me right now, is closing a sale. Because if you're closing a sale, you're literally just putting everything away, and that's it. Instead, you're opening up a relationship with the person who you're going to be creating for and relating to. Maybe just one more example, and then we can obviously wind out the show. What do you sort of think when it comes to marketing speak and everything else that has always been spoken about? There's people that perpetrate hustle, sell or be sold, all that marketing speak that's very strong and looks like you're trying to kill someone, when we are in an abundance sort of environment where everyone has an opportunity to be, do, and have a happier existence.
Exactly. And yeah, exactly what you're saying. It's about looking at it and looking at, is it depersonalizing? Is it dehumanizing? Are they warm leads, hot leads? Are they whatever, data at the end of the day? Do I want to convert them? Conversion comes from religious language as much as I know. What do I want to do with my clients? Do I really want to push them down the funnel? That's not the idea. That's not the spirit. Do I have a killer product or a killer offer? I am not so much interested in killer whatever. Yeah. So I mean, as you said, we want to have maybe sales conversations. We want to have a collaboration. So it's about also something that continues, because people are becoming our clients, and then hopefully they will come back again, or they will recommend us or whatsoever. So it's not just selling to clients or upselling, and not about selling most. It's about creating value as well that we have in mind. And therefore, all these words like punchline, tripwire, squeeze, whatsoever, penetrating the market. Seriously, is this what we are aiming for? Do you feel well with these kind of words? I'm pretty sure we can do better than that. And I think the worst word in this regard is actually branding, because it goes back to really branding like animals or humans. I mean, like, would we? No. I mean, we can come. Maybe it's about visual identity. It's about whatever it is about. But I mean, there are better words. We are writing. We are now in a different period. We do not need to say it the way we used to say it. We are authors of our lives, our futures, our destinies, our businesses, and therefore we are the ones to come up with the language that is in harmony with how we want this world to be. And the funniest thing I've seen the other day, because I had my antennas wide open for marketing language, it was that whoever put the S into fast food has been a marketing genius.
That spells FAT, right?
Normally, I mean, take the S out of fast food. This would be like what it actually very often is about.
Wow.
Marketing genius.
Absolutely. All right. Before we start taking words out and letters out of words so they don't mean what they're not meaning, how can people get in touch with you there, Claudia? And whether they're intrigued by your speakGreen, or they're just eager to tap into the wealth of knowledge and experience that you are presenting on this episode right now. And I really appreciate you sitting with me all this while. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, the easiest way is to find me on speakGreen. The website is speak-green.com, because the other one was already taken. You find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Claudia Gross. I'm the one with the TEDx talk in the background. And I'm currently redoing my website. Once it's reborn, it will be drclaudiagross.com. And these are the best ways. And then we can take it from there. In LinkedIn, you will also find my link tree and the bio. So there's all the other links to webinars, speeches, to the book Words Create Worlds. You find it on Amazon or on Gumroad. So if you want to know more about the power of language on it, that is relevant for our daily communications, these would be the sources. Or watch my TEDx talk.
Fantastic. I've actually just sent you a friend request right now. Please do not leave me hanging. How would I say that in speakGreen?
Please accept my friend request and let's stay in contact.
Are you going to do that?
Certainly.
Fantastic. I really enjoyed having this chat with you, Dr. Claudia. It really brought to me light so much of the things that we take for granted and don't quite notice that we're actually shooting ourselves in the foot. We could have been flying, we could have been experiencing flying cars by now. Now I see the reason why that hasn't been a possibility. All we're doing is tweeting and fighting about who has got the best ringtone, me or Kim Kardashian. But I think I know who has. Anyway, that's just how far we've gone in humanity, and I think we have limited ourselves by the way we are speaking. you know People in the past would go and venture into wild worlds and things of that nature. What have we done? We have only just maybe conquered the next suburb, or we've only just conquered the next city. Claudia has conquered Egypt, left Germany, but still hasn't been to the United States. So maybe that's the reason, why a lot of people haven't heard about all of this, because you haven't ventured into America. When can people expect you in the States?
I actually thought about joining a conference that will take place next year. It's about peace and it will be in Washington in January. So I thought about maybe this one, but whenever someone is inviting me, so if you have any events on consciousness at work or the power of language, invite me and then I come to the United States. And it would actually be a super pleasure to also stay longer there and be in a couple of places and speaking there. So yeah, definitely. Let's green the United States.
When we're
Get
not
the
just talking
red.
about the money, right?
No, not at all.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps up yet another enlightening episode of the Online Prosperity Show. And a huge, huge thank you to our incredible guest, Dr. Claudia Gross. At least you spend an hour with us. You were not stuck in traffic. So hopefully you're not going to come up with a whole new concept of what not to do on Zoom when you're talking to a podcast and people in Australia. But I really enjoyed you taking us on a journey which starts off in traffic, and it just really spirals into something that is now remarkable. I think you owe us a dictionary. All right. You see, when you're on embarking on creating a language and things of that nature, I think things like a dictionary and a way of speaking and just really guiding people as they go could be the way to do this. I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, I have a couple of thoughts about this. One of them is already on the speakgreen.com website. It's called Transitionary. So there you find the list of all the posts. And because it's all about the transition from one word to the other. And I also thought that because I'm not so happy about the thesaurus when you're looking for word alternatives. Very often they give us really a limited choice of bad words, where I thought like, okay, we can do better than that. So I thought about coming up with my own thesaurus. And someone said, why don't you call it Greenipedia? So it would be green, like, yeah, a glossary or something for green language, Greenipedia. So I go, oh, that's fantastic. That's not an idea that was born in a traffic jam. And still, I mean, it sounds very interesting and attractive to pursue it.
Well, the world is your oyster. Keep pushing, keep finding. Who knows what got you onto this show? We'll get you onto the next TEDx. We'll get you onto the next platform, which will then pretty much just spread the awareness that you have for us. I really appreciate what you're doing. I think on behalf of humanity, if somebody embarks on creating a whole new way of life, that person deserves a big, big, big round of applause, or whatever it is they give people these days. But you know what I mean. It is a big endeavor, and if there's any way that we can actually help you create this or put this out there far and wide, I'm more than happy to be one of the people that you can reach out to, because some of these things we're not meant to be doing them by ourselves. Speaking of which, you told me the first thing that brought you to Egypt was destiny, but it was probably just for you to discover this
Yeah.
and then really find the people that can put it out there in the world.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's exactly that. You know that I feel that the power of language and how we are speaking here and communicating with each other was really like super influential for what I currently do. I keep on saying that I am the person that I am right now because of Egypt, because of this fertile soil here, and it is catalyzing development. Sometimes I think I should borrow, like, should rent one of the billboards close to the airport saying, like, you know what? Welcome in Egypt. Being here is going to be a catalyst in your life. And if you're not ready for that, next U-turn after 50 meters.
But don't get stuck in traffic. You might have big idea.
That's right. That's right.
Fantastic. And for those that are looking to connect with Dr. Claudia Gross, I will put all the information below. And definitely there is more to be experienced with the works that she is doing. Even though it's not going to be at a world scale, I actually gave an example of my kids. You can actually change your own little world, just based on the words that you're speaking. Well, thank you so much once again. I know if you and I have been put in the same place, we might not, conclude this episode because there's always going to be something else to talk. And for those that are watching right now, if you have enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe because things like this don't normally happen. Dr. Claudia is very hard to get by, but we managed to. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Until the next time, this has been Prosper Tarovinga and my new favorite person, Claudia Gross. Bye for now.